of you have been related to or attended CEPE? Wow, raise them high? Okay, great. Welcome, students. Those of you who are interested in the program, please look around and ask any questions of these folks because they're just awesome. The class is awesome. Anybody want to have a testimonial about the class?
Oh, I've got
Yes, thank you.
So I just completed the class this winter, and I am currently working through a startup through the MBA program at PSU. And I feel like that the course really helped us not only get our mind around what digital marketing is, but it really kind of drove a lot of the strategy for our business because we're an online marketplace. So I thought it was pivotal. I'm really happy I got the chance to be in class. I don't think that my MBA would be what it is without having the opportunity to be in that class.
Wow, I got chills. That's awesome. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody here from the Outdoor and Apparel certificate? Okay. Well, this is a really neat certificate that we've put together, of course, in response to the demand of the population here and the businesses here, like Nike and Columbia, and Keene and the Timbers and the Thorns, in that we need folks who really understand that type of business. It's a very different business. It requires a different skill set. And so what PSU has done is put together a custom program around the outdoor and apparel industry, from product design to marketing and launching a product. So really amazing program. That starts this September 17th. So if you are interested in the program, again, please feel free to ask. Melissa is in the back, so she runs the program, or any of the instructors that are here today. Happy to answer some questions on that. The DMS certificate starts September 18th. So do feel free to sign up if you have recommended. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our two fabulous speakers today. We are very privileged to have Cory Dolich, who is with the Timbers and the Thorns. He is a Senior Vice President of Business Operations and Marketing. Cory. And then we have Mark Shimahura, who is with the First Group, who is the holding company for Keene and Chrome. And he'll be telling you much more about that as we move forward. So we're going to have, as normal format for this breakfast, we're going to have two presentations, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A because we usually run out of time. So today, with two panelists, we're going to have plenty of time on that, and I'll facilitate that after the presentations. Okay, any questions before we start? Okay, there are brochures for the classes over on your exit. All right, excellent. Challenge my IT capabilities. Do you see that? Aha. Okay, excellent. And do you have the forward? Awesome. Okay, we're going to start off with Cory.
Great. Well, welcome. Good morning. I have a couple case studies that I was going to go through, but before I got into that, I wanted to start with this slide. So, from a Timbers and Thorns perspective, but for the purpose of this presentation, kind of keep it focused on the Timbers. It's good for us to kind of take a step back and really understand, what do we represent? What's our core? What's our soul? RCTID is that representation. So, quick show of hands, how many of you have been to a Timbers or Thorns game before? How many of you know or think you know what RCTID represents? So RCTID is Rose City Till I Die. And what that means, beyond the fact that it's Rose City Till I Die, is what you can see on the slide behind. It's basically kind of that emotional connection that not just fans or supporters have with the team, but basically kind of like all entities that engage with the club. So, whether it's a player to a player, whether it's front office, whether it's part-time staff, it's basically how you view the Timbers and kind of ultimately the soul of the team. So when we're looking at whether it's a digital marketing initiative, ticket sales initiative, community initiative, if it doesn't kind of embody what RCTID represents, then it's not for us. So I just want to point that out because anytime we're looking at some of the tactics and the strategies, it's important to kind of look at it holistically and say, hey, is this who we are? Is this what we represent? And distill it down to your core. And if it's not that, then I'd urge you to kind of reconsider what that specific strategy is. So, from a kind of specific example, kind of a real world application, this is kind of what I'm talking about, as it relates to kind of what the soul of what your brand is. So it really gets down to your overall purpose. So from a Timbers perspective, obviously we want to win. Winning and losing comes and goes. I don't think in the history of sports there's any team with any history that's won every single one of their games. It clearly just doesn't happen. And so you need to build a foundation that's a lot more sustainable than that. There's going to be momentum, both positive and negative, that happens with sports, that is tied to winning and losing, signing big name players, injuries, etc. That stuff is ephemeral, and you can't necessarily rely on that for the long term. It's really about what's your purpose, and for us, that purpose is RCTID. From a front office standpoint, our goal is to be stewards of the club. RCTID isn't something that we created. It was something that was already organic and authentic, that was in the marketplace. It was kind of the personality of what the fan base represented. It's interesting, when we made the move to Major League Soccer in 2011, we asked our fans, why are you coming to games? Like, what's the primary reason for you buying a ticket? And overwhelmingly, people said to support the local team. There's a really deep-seated civic pride, especially in Portland and kind of the greater region, that is really, really powerful. And for us, it always kind of gets back to that. It's not about hey, I need to see the star player. It's not about, hey, it's a convenient day of week, or the weather's nice, I want to go outside. It's kind of this larger, hey, I want to be a part of this community. I want to be a part of the fabric of what Portland and the greater Portland metro area represent. So when you kind of distill it down into a little more of a granular perspective, it's this distinction between the transactional and the relational. So it's not about just buying one ticket to one specific game. It's kind of developing this greater relationship. And so kind of the example that I use. So I love to fish. I've been fishing all my life. And I moved up here 8 years ago. And when I moved up here, I really started getting into fly fishing. And so we can go. And so there's a fly shop that is clearly the closest one to where I live, and it's 10 minutes away. It's a nice fly shop. It has everything that you would need. It has all the products. The people are nice. But I never felt like I was kind of part of that community. And then there's another fly shop that's 30 minutes away. It's a lot farther away. It has probably about the same amount of stuff, maybe not quite as much of kind of the new gear. But the owner took the time to kind of get to know me. He knows my name. He really showed me hey, this fly is where you want to use this fly for this river or this lake. It only took 10 or 15 minutes, but you feel like you're a person. You don't feel like a number. And I'm gonna always go to that fly shop, even though it's not as convenient for me. I think in this day and age, it's kind of a simple thing, but common human decency goes a really long way. Treat each other like human beings. And so many interactions that you have, both personally and professionally, how many times do you feel like you're just not being treated the right way? And for us, it always kind of gets back to that. Build the relationship, and everything else hopefully should work out. So wanted to talk about a couple of case studies and a couple of programs that we've launched over the last couple of years that, from a digital marketing perspective, hopefully represent kind of that RCTID ethos. So the first one is called Spread the Love, and we launched this in 2013. So basically what Spread the Love is we identified 107 ambassadors, and their goal was to find people that had never been to a Timbers game, give them free tickets. Simple as that. Does anyone think they know what 107 represents? Yes. What's important about that section? Yes. So the Timbers Army, our supporters group, they started in 107. So the 107 ambassadors, they were taken from kind of all walks of life in terms of their connection to the team. We had former players, front office staff, coaches, civic leaders, season ticket holders, part-time staff. So like this individual, that's John Bain. He used to play for the Timbers back in the 1970s when the Timbers were part of the NASL. And for us, when you go to a Timbers game, that's kind of I think the light bulb moment or the aha moment that you have in terms of maybe making that shift from someone that's, I don't really know what the Timbers are all about, to being like, I get what everyone's talking about. Like, it's a super dynamic environment and atmosphere, something different than I would say most people have experienced from a sports standpoint. So we're really, really fortunate, and it's a function of the community, a function of the fans that help create that. And so we're in this unique situation where we've sold out every single game since 2011. We don't have a ton of single game ticket inventory. So how do you get new people to experience the Timbers if you don't have any tickets to go to the game? And so this was a way to kind of be more inclusive and give people an opportunity that maybe couldn't afford it, or just couldn't get tickets, or for one reason or another just couldn't get into a game. And so what was that Spread the Love package? It was 4 tickets to a Timbers game, 4 tickets to a Thorns game, which is our women's team. And in 2013, it was 4 tickets to the Reserve League. The Reserve League was run by MLS. It doesn't exist anymore. There's a different developmental system. And then we created these custom Spread the Love scarves. The only people that got them were the ambassadors and the people that received them. Can't go, can't buy them, can only be gifted them. And so at the root of the campaign was this Facebook tab we created where people could nominate other people that were deserving of getting the Spread the Love package. So it was basically a way to spread the love. And Spread the Love wasn't something that we just coined and came up with. That was something that has roots back to the founding of the team. So Timber Joey is our mascot. He's the one that slices the logs every time we score a goal. For Timber Joey, we had Timber Jim. He's the one that started that tradition. He's kind of the one that helped develop the spirit of Spread the Love. And that's kind of what Timber Jim, Timber's Army, the fan base, that's kind of what they're all about. And we obviously thought that was just perfect for helping shepherd and spearhead this campaign. So people could nominate themselves, they could nominate other people, and then the ambassadors, they had the choice to either select someone from their network, or they could go to the Facebook page and pick someone that they felt was deserving. And then we would help facilitate the exchange if they wanted the Spread the Love package. This is just kind of some examples of a few different things. On the right are digital ads that we ran just helping promote the program. The bottom, obviously, another example of the scarf. You can see a number of the pictures of the people that, both ambassadors and the recipients of the Spread the Love packets. And then throughout the entire process, we ran little blogs about the people's experiences that received it. So this gentleman, his name was Dominic. He's actually the head coach of Lake Oswego girls soccer team. I think he still is. And he was nominated by Mick Hogan, who's another one of our alumni, played in the NSL Interact. And he had not really gone to games before, but super connected in the soccer community locally. And it was, there was a lot of other things that you find out when you talk to people and understand kind of what their story is. And part of it was also about sharing that story and kind of understanding what made them tick. So I'm going to play a quick video. This, just to kind of set the background, this is kind of a representation of how the Spread the Love action took place. So there's an ambassador in here. He is a season ticket holder, and then the individual that he selected. There should be a video.
Oh, a video? Yeah. Oh, it's all complicated. You wanted sound too?
Yeah.
We attorneys. And I thought about people in my life that are important to me, that are important to the community, that have had some kind of force multiplying effect through their activities. Because it's not about getting free tickets. I think it's more about community gratitude and honoring of an individual. And the person that really came to my mind is a man named Teacher Bob. Teacher Bob has been teaching for 30 years, and his esteemed career with his wife Dusty goes back to the early days of Portland Timbers soccer, whereas you have touched the lives of, to our count, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 children. What's your favorite thing about Teacher Bob?
He's really nice. And he likes dinosaurs. He's been here so long, and he's really good, and he's nice. He is my favorite teacher at this school.
James, I'm teaching students and I have their parents in my classroom. So I appreciate all my students and I want to thank you for this honor. I'm sure you know this is going to happen, but anyway, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Wow.
So we created a few of these vignettes from a video standpoint and shared them on our various platforms. And I just think that kind of really represents what the campaign was supposed to be about. It was pretty cool when we went, teacher had no idea that was happening. And so we organized it through the principal, and then you see all these kids like peeking their heads out from the other rooms. And then one thing you can't see is like in front of his classroom, there's like this big throng of kids and parents. It's a pretty cool experience. So that's Spread the Love. One last thing on Spread the Love. So it was something that we did throughout the entire season. And, it was one of those things where, as I said, it was ultimately just about giving back and using kind of that ethos of RCTID and inculcating people into what the Timbers are all about. So the second example that I wanted to talk about has roots in 2011. So for those of you that were here then, when we made the transition to MLS, one of the first things we did was launch a big billboard campaign. That's not digital, but just bear with me. And as part of that, people really got excited about the outdoor campaign, and they kept saying, hey, I want to be on my own billboard. Well, clearly that's not sustainable or realistic. And so as part of that feedback, we created these free fan photo shoots where we took photos of people in the likeness of the billboard back in 2011. And then as part of that, we were able to get one billboard where people could then vote on those images. And so 4 people from the initial photo shoot got up on their own billboard. So this year is the 5th year of the team being in MLS and 40th year overall of the team being in Portland. So we basically reignited that campaign and did it again. So when we launched it, we did it this past winter in January and February. We went back to a bunch of the people that had their photo taken originally and just did digital stories on it. Where are they now? Why are you a Timbers fan? Again, it's about kind of the root of the connection between fans and the club and everyone kind of associated with it. If you look at kind of the example of a wheel and the spokes, the club is the center. There's all these different interactions and different entities that are interacting with it. And so we did, maybe 10 or so of these short stories, put them on our website as a way to just kind of get people excited and certainly see the campaign and the photo shoot that we were going to do again in 2015. We did the photo shoot. We took a lot of photos. And then we posted them on a Flickr album. I don't want to oversimplify it. I mean, there's a lot of work and thought that went into the development of it. But at the end of the day, people wanted to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and it was our responsibility to figure out how to do that and provide that platform. So I think when it was all said and done, we probably took over 10,000 photos. When you whittle that down, maybe it's, 4,000 selects, maybe 3,000 individual people that were shot, and we did it over a span of 5 different days. Like I said earlier this year, in preparation for the launch of this season, and then people could download the photos and use them any way they wanted. Certainly, there's a cool grassroots and viral effect that comes with it. And, you know, our logo is out there, but it's more than that. It's about the fans feeling a connection to the team and sharing that across their network, and not just, hey, I want to get tickets to one specific game. It's a deeper relationship. We also ran the billboard contest again. So we got a bunch of billboards and people could vote on the photos that they liked the best. We just ran it on Facebook and did it through Facebook like mechanism, and we had almost 60,000 votes. I think the top 4 people got on the billboard. I think their total votes were over 10,000 just themselves. So it was pretty cool to just see how engaged people were, and you know, certainly, like I said before, there's a viral component of it, but I think it speaks to just the larger example of trying to kind of being a fabric of the city, and you know, making sure that whatever you do is in line with what the character and the language of Portland is. I think in any city, if you aren't authentic or organic, like, people will call out your BS, but I think in Portland, they're probably do it even more. Here's just some examples of some more of the pictures. You know, we extended it to, you know, other subsets of people. So, say there's a couple people that, you know, are a little different. So, in the bottom row, my right, your left, that's one of our players. So that's Nat Fortress. He was signed this past offseason, and his baby, so it's super cute. The individual in the bottom middle, that's Wayne Garcia. He obviously works for Fox 12. He's anchor there. And then, do we have any Project Runway fans? If not, you might not know. So one of the Project Runway winners is in the top left. He lives in Portland. I think one of the kind of coolest and most dynamic aspects of the campaign was just following the life cycle of the supporters. So you can see kind of the natural evolution. Just 2 specific examples that I pulled out, but the overall goal is every 5 years we're going to do this. And so for people like this who got their photo taken when they were, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, or 4 or 5, you're going to see them hopefully grow up with the Timbers, and that's ultimately what it's all about. It's kind of being part of that family, and we created large-scale installations in the stadium. So for those of you that have been in the stadium recently, after 2011, basically every single photo was put up as a sign in the stadium. And then we put up a photo of all of the pictures from 2015 in the stadium in the last couple weeks. And so, like I said, every 5 years, we'll continue to build that out so that literally you can see people growing up with the Timbers. So it's pretty phenomenal to see how engaged people were, and obviously it was a lot of fun to be a part of. And I think the biggest takeaway that I would leave you with, and you've heard me say it a lot, is sometimes take a step back and just you have to be really disciplined and diligent with like what you represent and who you are. And there's probably a lot of different messages that you want to get across, but distill it down to what the top 2 or 3 things are, and always focus on that. Because ultimately the Timbers, whether it's year 1, year 5, year 20, year 75, when I'm long gone, hopefully RCTID will still live on, and that's what will be the foundation for kind of everything we do.
You're not going anywhere though,
Well, if I can live to over 100,
right?
we're good.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Cory.